Recently, on September 25th of this year, President Trump released a disturbing document called National Security Presidential Memorandum 7. On the surface, it's about countering so-called domestic terrorism and political violence. But if we look closely, this document has major negative implications for activists and anyone challenging capitalism, fascism, or anti-imperialism. I've included a link to this memo in the description section of this video, so you can read it for yourself. However, Harlem Liberation School is a Black political education center. So we got to do more than just share the document and people read it and go, oh, did you hear what happened? We have to have an analysis, a Black-centered analysis, and discussions of action plans. This memo starts by pointing to recent acts of political violence. And it's very interesting the political acts that it refers to in this document. The assassination of right-wing figure Charlie Kirk, the attempt on Justice Kavanaugh, Supreme Court Justice, riots in Los Angeles and Portland, and even alleged assassination attempts on Trump himself. None of this talk about the political violence against immigrants, the political violence against Black people. Voter suppression is political violence. None of those type of acts of political violence. All of them are against ultra-right-wing conservatives. So that's very interesting. That already sets the tone for where this is going. And it frames all of this as part of this larger organized campaign by movements that the memo refers to as anti-fascist. According to the document, these movements, 1, dehumanize targets through social media and education spaces. 2, use tactics like doxing. And that, by the way, refers to when you reveal private information like someone's number, personal address, their work address, in an effort to harass or intimidate people like reporters, elected officials, and controversial spokespeople. These movements, according to this document, these anti-fascist movements also escalate into violence, intimidation, and even assassination. So you can see this targets a lot of people, right? Not just even Black people. The memo claims that their motivations, the motivations of these groups of people, named as kind of domestic terrorists, include anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-traditional Christianity, radical views on race and gender. You see all those people, they lumped up in that umbrella. That's a lot of people, family. And people who have hostility towards so-called traditional American values. So in other words, these are the same critiques that many progressive radicals, grassroots organizers have been making for decades. So we are all lumped up into that. So what does the memo actually do? It directs the FBI's joint terrorism task forces to investigate people accused of recruiting or radicalizing others, organizations and their funders connected to protest activity, nonprofits that might be indirectly supporting activism, and even U.S. citizens connected with certain foreign groups. The Department of Treasury and the IRS are ordered to track the finances of nonprofits, shut down networks accused of supporting terrorism, as they've defined it, of course, and strip such groups of tax-exempt status. This document says that the Attorney General has authorization to recommend groups be officially designated as domestic terrorist organizations. This, of course, opens the door for mass government surveillance, prosecution, and even dismantling entire organizations. What does this mean for nationalists, Pan-Africans, progressive, radicals, and independent media? It means, family, that protests and acts of civil disobedience that are protected by the United States Constitution can be rebranded and reframed as terrorism. And once that's done, it opens up a floodgate of other punitive measures. It means that there'll be financial repercussions and repression. Nonprofits, mutual aid networks, and movement organizations could lose their funding. Their funding could be frozen or they could be shut down. Media threats. So YouTubers, podcasters, writers, public intellectuals, social political commentators who critique capitalism, policing, U.S. foreign policy might be accused of radicalizing people and be targeted with punitive measures. It means expanded surveillance. Our online speech, organizing meetings, and even classrooms could be monitored for so-called extremism. The historical piece on this is that this is nothing new. We've seen this with COINTELPRO. We've seen this even farther back with the Red Scare and the Patriot Act. So you might be wondering, what can we do to respond to that? It would be advisable to start building legal aid networks if you have not already. Start getting in touch with lawyers who defend civil liberties and things of that nature. It would be advisable that you teach people in your organization digital security, cyber security. This memo needs to be shared widely, but not just shared. It has to be exposed as an attack on political dissent, not just terrorism prevention. They're going after people that have an opinion that goes against the government. That's a whole different ballgame. And that is technically unconstitutional and unethical. Financial preparation. Maybe we should stop depending on these tax-exempt structures. Maybe we should go back to community-based funding models that are harder for outside entities to disrupt. That kind of changes how you can move. But when you have, let's say, crowdfunding, or you're going to specific people, funders, philanthropists, or organizations in the community, going to community citizens, it's a little more difficult to disrupt. I would suggest coalition building. We got to get out of this "we got no friend." We need to look at the existing civil liberties groups in this country, in our cities, and see who we might align with, because they have all the information on the government's unethical, unconstitutional attempts to erode people's rights in this country. And they are tremendous resources in that area. We need to build with our faith organization, our mosque and our churches. All these people have a vested interest in being able to freely express themselves, to be critical of government apparatus. And then lastly, we need to teach people about protesting. In this case, nonviolent direct action protest. That's well organized, well scripted, well documented. We're videotaping what we're doing. We have legal observers there, lawyers that are there watching what's going on, prepared to testify in court if need be. No property was destroyed. Nobody threatened nobody's life, right? We need that. And train our activists in this nonviolent direct action, so it makes it a little more difficult for the state to come up with these preposterous terrorism charges. Also, I might add, remember the first word of the Underground Railroad. In closing, family, this memo isn't just about people running around doing mass shootings. It's not really even about them at all. It's about expanding the definition of terrorism to include anyone who has an opinion that challenges the government. And if we don't resist that, if everybody cowers in the corner, we're going to be in real trouble. I already did a video for you called, "Is the Country Heading Toward Fascism?" Do you see how it's playing out? Stay alert, stay informed. We don't want to live in a society where free speech and protest and community organizing are criminalized. That's a whole different type of society that none of us signed up for. Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this video with others, and subscribe for more Black political education from Harlem Liberation School. Family, be wise. Don't be a fool. Be wise and discerning with how you frame things, with what you're advocating publicly, and things of that nature. Peace and Black power.